everyone, and thank you so much for being here tonight. We appreciate you joining us for the third and final installment of our Breaking It Down series. My name is Nell McEwen, and I'm the Development Events Manager here at the Chicago History Museum. And we'd like to welcome you to the museum, which is a destination for learning, inspiration, and connecting people to Chicago's history and to each other. We've got a great program planned for you tonight, and we hope that you'll be inspired and learn something new about the history of breaking. I want to thank our partners for tonight's program, the Chicago Dance History Project and Nexus Performing Arts. Thank you so much for your partnership. Their collaboration, yes, big round of applause for them. Their collaboration and ideas have inspired this program series, and we're proud to be hosts for this evening's program, Breaking Ground, Exploring Space for Breaking in Chicago. Tonight's panel discussion will be led by Jenna Pollack. She's an urban planner, cultural organizer, researcher, and educator, a big dork, cat mom of two, and catcher upstairs in the research center. Please give a warm welcome to Jenna, who will introduce our amazing panel for tonight's discussion. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Nell. I really, really appreciate it. Hey, everybody, how are you doing? We're good? Yeah, thanks for asking. I'm good. Oh, my dad's a musician, so I always had to learn how to use a microphone. Ice cream cone, microphone. So thanks so much. I'm incredibly honored to be here tonight. I got notes so I don't get too nervous. I grew up dancing here in the Chicago community in studios that were originally bowling alleys, fraternal lounges, car dealerships, and storefronts and strip malls. Many of them are gone now. And the city has changed a lot over time. And so as a researcher, I'm really interested in the ways that the Chicago dance community interfaces with forces of gentrification, displacement, and urban policy. And there are really hard truths about development and state power. And so my research calls to the fore to frame or to contextualize these conversations, the ways that our dance community at large are telling their stories in space and also in place. And so it's with this lens that I'm honored to be here in support of the panel. Crucially, I want to start by naming that I'm not a breaker, and that's really important to name up front. I'm truly a guest in this conversation, in the breaking community, and in this space tonight. And I'm really humbled to be here to help center the stories of Justin, CJ, and Ken, your legacies, your wisdom, your education. I had the honor and privilege of speaking with these incredible artists ahead of tonight in preparation for the panel, and they are just so generous with their time and stories. I want to thank you all deeply. I think y'all are going to be really excited about everything that they have to share tonight with their legacies and their stories, and I'm just super grateful. So I just want to bring them all up here. Come on up. Give a round of applause. Got CJ Williams here on your right, Justin Gray, and then the Ken Swift. Come on in, friends. How are you guys doing?
Test, mic check. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. You doing good?
Thanks, I appreciate that, CJ. Why don't we start with you? Why don't you introduce yourself to folks just briefly and tell us what's bringing you joy these days.
Yo, what's up, everybody? How y'all doing? What up, what up? Thank you all for being here. My name's CJ Williams. I also go by Black Attack. Chicago, Illinois, born and raised. Sorry, I'm a little nervous, so let me catch my breath right now. What brings me joy these days? Just a little bit of everything. I got my hands in kind of a lot of different things, so obviously breaking gives me joy. I work with youth. I've been working with youth for over 20 years, so I work in youth development, have a dance studio, so a lot of these different things give me joy. Just seeing young people develop. I teach adults too, seeing them develop, you know what I mean? So it's kind of a little bit of everything.
Thank you, really appreciate it. Justin, what about you? Tell us a bit about yourself and what brings you joy.
Hello, peace, everybody. Can y'all say peace? Hi, my name's Justin. I'm happy to be here today. First off, I want to say thanks to my bro over here. It's been a great pleasure to be in spaces with you and share, breaking and see you, kill it in the game. So much respect, CJ.
Thank you.
As well as big ups Ken Swift being in the house today, legend. I'm a Chicagoan. Grew up in hip hop and breaking and graffiti and just street culture and things like that. And it's been love. It's been inspiration and to share circles and build friendship and brotherhood with the community and sisterhood and also just doing this work, this community work and working with youth and building in communities in CPS and park districts and institutions and things, sharing this culture and this knowledge and this art and this creativity. And it brings me joy. I love art. I still do the art and graph and I still break and practice. And I'm recently a new dad, so fatherhood has kicked in real hard. Yeah. So I've been spending time doing that, and I love it. And I love Chicago, and I love hip hop, and this is amazing to be here today. Thank you.
How you feeling, Ken?
I'm good. I'm glad to be here. Peace, everybody. What's up? Good to be in Chicago, man. Wow. Just in a few minutes, seeing some faces of friends, man. It's bringing back memories. But time has wings, and it has been flying right by. So I'm glad to be here. Once again, my name is Kenny. They call me Ken Swift, also known as Ken Swift. Second generation B-boy out of New York City, Upper West Side of Harlem, actually. Harlem, Upper West Side, Manhattan. Became a part of the Rocksteady crew in the early 80s, and we were the first group of B-boys to kind of like seriously go professional in specific ways, among a few others. So the ride has been interesting, and what brings me joy is music and, this art and just being able to have a platform and share it with people and still be able to move a little bit after these years, because it's not as easy as it used to be. Trust me when I tell you that. But that's the passion that we all kind of possess, and we're like big kids. I like to say I'm a big kid, man. I feel like some of my friends in New York, they're like, Ken, you still doing that, man? And they're looking at me kind of sideways, like, you all right? Like, maybe you banged your head a little bit too much? You know how old you are, right? Anyway, long story short, none of that matters. Art is art. Art is wonderful, and I'm blessed to have this hip-hop culture in my life.
Right on. Thank you, three. I'm going to stick with you for a sec, Ken. So you sent me some pictures the other day, and I'm going to pull one of them up right now. I would love for you to talk about this photo and tell us a little bit about all the block parties, parks, and playgrounds that you first started breaking in.
Yeah, okay, so this is probably 81. This is Rocksteady Park, which is Earl Manigault Park, 99th Street and Amsterdam Avenue in Manhattan. And I lived right next door, like my building is in some of the photos, because Rocksteady Park is behind the building where I grew up. Actually, I grew up a block away, but in 78, I moved to 765 Amsterdam. So yeah, that's the park, and this is a swing set area. Behind us is a health center, where you see the Nita piece in the back. That's Dole's girlfriend was Nita, so he did a graffiti piece. It was popular to do your girlfriend's name or your boyfriend's name or whoever was doing the painting. You could see the floors bombed up with tags. We were writing our name anywhere and everywhere possible. At that time, it was popular. I started as a writer. My older brother was a writer, so I started trying to, be involved with it, even though he was trying to keep me away from it because I was the youngest and my mother wasn't even trying to hear about me writing my name anywhere, even though it was all over my brother's bedroom. That's Crazy Legs in the middle. That's me with the white hat on the left with the short shorts and the high socks. With the BVD nylon and chino nylon Kango hat. You got Little Crazy Legs, Fast Break, JoJo, Frosty Freeze, Take One, Jimmy, and Viejo, Puñala on right behind me. And this is a typical day, summer day, where, we would practice. We bring out a radio and, When in our conversation, I talked to you about how there was a furniture store. The block was interesting because it was like a furniture store, pizza shop, Carvel, a snack, fried chicken spot, and then, A&P. Like, it was just like this line of the best kind of like junk food you could possibly want. And we were all teenagers. We'd chip in for chips and stuff. But the furniture store would throw their cardboard boxes right alongside the building, which is right when you walk in the park. You'll see all these boxes. And I'm a part of the generation that really brought, what would become power moves, and the spinning popularity of breaking was in the second generation of b-boys. A lot of the dancers before me, and even myself, we danced on concrete. But when the spins were incorporated, and we started paying attention to materials, and we started paying attention to mediums like concrete or asphalt and so forth, and then the moves became a little bit more complex to where, when we used to bang our back, it was one thing, but now there's the evolution of these moves. We're pushing our bodies harder, we're banging our heads harder. So we were kind of efficient to put those cardboard boxes over the rubber pads for the kids, because in the playgrounds, this was a new thing around that time where I guess there were issues. A lot of kids were getting hurt, and so they started putting these thick rubber pads, and it was just perfect for those new kind of cool moves where you could throw yourself in the air and maybe bang your elbow, but get up and be like, I got it. So that's what's happening in this shot, Upper West Side. And, same thing here. This is by the swings. And you got dolls on the floor right now. And it was just like, look, summer day, there might be 2 people. By 3 o'clock, there's about 10 people. Not everybody came and broke. People just came and chilled and talked and did a regular summer day thing, And then there was basketball courts there and stickball. It was paddleball court was a big deal. Handball was a big deal at that time period. So it was an active park. To this day, it's a very active park. They renovated it. It's more kid-friendly. It's a lot different than what it was at that time. There's a police precinct right a block away from this. And even though they were there, and a fire department and a health center, it was you didn't want to really be hanging out there at night sometimes if you weren't from around there. But yeah, just practicing. This is where we would bug out, and then when the moment presented itself, we either at a block party or at a Sweet 16 or something that we were, able to be a part of at that age, because we couldn't get into clubs, at 14 and 13. We were, if there was a church that threw a party, we were able to go in because there was no alcohol. It wasn't but it was adults, and a lot of kids didn't want to even go in there because it was adults and it was disco, So, but me and my friends Andy and some of the guys from the group I was with, we would go in there, and the music was great. And these are the first type of stomping grounds for me and a lot of my friends to really get recognition for doing a little move on the floor, and that went a long way at that time. So these are just typical pictures of space that we took advantage of.
And you always said follow the music, right?
That's right. God bless, God bless. Yes, of course, up West Side in the house. Yeah, and I mentioned that in our conversation really briefly. It's not like people woke up and, it's like we had our day, if it was going downtown to 42nd Street to see a movie, if it was going to your uncle or your aunt's house or your friend's house, but it was the music, the music, in the projects, the music bounced off these brick buildings, huge brick buildings, and people that had systems, you could feel the bass, and you went there, and you didn't necessarily go there to break. You just went there because everybody's saying, what is that? Where is that? I want to see what's going on over there, and everybody gathered. It was just a social kind of cool way of making your presence known. And if you had enough nerve and you did a dance move, you might get some respect, or you might get laughed at or disrespected. So it was that was the type of environment. But yeah, music is the key and always has been the key.
Thank you. Really appreciate that. CJ, you were also adding linoleum to foamy mats on the playground, right?
I mean, really, we were just emulating what the pioneers were doing. Back in the late 90s, they started putting in these foamy mats that he described in our playgrounds, because we used to have wood chips in all the playgrounds. And once they started putting those in, we would buy linoleum and just throw that on top and then practice after school. So it's very similar, except this was, 20, 30 years later, you know what I mean? I started breaking in 98, so that's pretty much what I did after school for a couple years, and I met so many people that way, just being outside, being in the community. A lot of people being like, whoa, you guys still do that? And, you know, I was actually learning how to do it, so I'm like, I'm learning how to do it, you know, and just trying to figure out, like, all the people and just, like, how to do it, you know, so.
Right on. Justin, you grew up on the cusp of Lakeview and Logan Square, yeah?
Yeah, North Side. Grew up North Side, I was born in 82, so I got big brothers, and they were influenced by, you know, the culture and where breaking. Like, I have an oldest brother who was breaking in the 80s, and yeah, it was in the family, something in the family that kind of just stuck and was a bug, and there I am. That's like, that's the basement. So I grew up. I was fortunate enough to live in a house, and like I said, we had like this hip hop family, and I got big brothers, and I was influenced by them. And when I was 12, and they went to college, I was able to get my own room finally, and I had it was in the basement, and it was a perfect place for practice, like a little foam carpet, and you just throw linoleum on top. Oh yeah, that's my boy Eon. So we're like 15. We're talking about spaces. So yeah, just like a small little space like this, linoleum. We get moms let us. She didn't really let us, but we pieced up the walls, you know. Put the crew up, you know. But yeah, some magical moments just in the basement or at home. Like, thanks to all the moms and dads who support their kids and their art, you know, and enable them to follow their dreams or practice a cool thing. I was super fortunate that I had that my mom had a good job as a stewardess. So you know, she wasn't home, so we got to
Flight attendant nowadays,
oh,
bro.
yeah, flight attendant. So yeah, there was a lot of it was cool. She was super cool. I used to invite friends over and practice. This is like a little later, maybe 97, 98. This is when we started. I breaking in Chicago. There was battles, but there was a lot of ciphers first, you know, or like there was always battles, but ciphers. This was actually all city battle, actually. So this was a battle, but and it's cool because you could see in the background there's like 5, 6 crews. A lot of these guys in the background still break. You know, it's funny, but it was like this is a significant photo because this was like from practicing from you know at home and in the basement to like going to big jams and battling and. You know, I think we battled like full circle that time, and I think K-Mel was there. All these like big people names, and I was like 16, you know, and had my crew. You know, we was like gangs. We had crew colors, and it was tough. It was tough out there. You couldn't be whack, or else you would get dissed, you know. And that was like the real thing. Like you had to get respect, so you had to have something to show. Yeah, it's really important.
And do folks recognize this location as well? You want to talk a little bit about this, Justin?
Right? Who knows where this is? Raise your hand. Somebody say it right now. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so this is a picture of Logan Square, the Eagle. This is actually later, probably early 2000s, but when we're talking about spaces, I thought it was important to include a picture of this space because even in the 90s, it was a good practice space just to go, like it was an inspiration for me to be like 12 and pop up here, and you could imagine Angel Brick, he's one of the first people I seen over there.
Brickheads.
Like I had a big brother, and you know, he wouldn't want to take me all the time, but one day he took me. I even learned how to take the train like that day. Like I knew how to take the train, but like how to like switch from the blue line to the red line, and it was just like a special day. But yeah, to see other people breaking, or like other crews, or people in your own crew, like I seen Flex, who was like a big guy in my crew at the time, who's like a legendary Chicago breaker, and he was cool with me, but like I never would. One of the few times they would come to the house, but like to go somewhere else outside in the street where those other people break in, and the culture was there. It was just, I'm getting chills just talking about it, because the experience was like bigger than your little, like it's a bigger circle, you know, and it was amazing to experience that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hype.
So I made a map of some of the high schools that you mentioned, CJ, when we were talking, and I'm wondering if you can tell us about the high school dances.
Yeah, so I'm also from the north side, just so people know that. And yeah, so when I was in high school, there used to be dances at all the high schools that other high school students could go to if you had a high school ID. And when I started breaking, I wanted to meet all the breakers and find all the hip hop that I could in the city. So I would go to all the different high school dances and find the breakers and try to battle them or whatever. And yeah, these are just some of the places that I went to that were on the north side in my area. You know, Lane. I think I went to Amundsen High School, which I didn't, it's not on here. I guess I didn't even mention my own high school. Oh. Yeah, so I went there. I didn't turn my neck enough. But yeah, I think I ended up in Lane's yearbook one year for like at one of their dances, and I didn't even go to that school. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. It was really cool. I don't know if they still do that these days, but it was really cool, like Valentine's dances or just homecoming dances and stuff like that. If you had a high school ID and you're in high school, you could go to that school's dance and stuff. So it was a cool way to like meet other breakers and stuff like that.
Does anyone know if that policy is still around? It's not? Oh, that's such a bummer. Thank you. So I want to shift, actually, Ken, can you tell us about the expansion of the scene in New York City into the Village in Tribeca?
Yeah. Okay, so what I can say is that a big part of this, where I was concerned with Rocksteady Crew, was the connection between Take One, David Martinez, rest in peace, Take One from Rocksteady. He was a writer, and he found he was involved with the writing community, so he found out about Henry Chalfant, who had a studio in the Village. And in his studio, Henry was a graffiti photographer. He's one of the few that existed at the time that were out there and about taking pictures, and actually taking quality pictures, you know, going to pictures of trains and so forth. So Take was down there with a few other writers, because Henry would let you, you know, Henry had that, you know, Henry was a white guy. He wasn't from the hood. You know, he's taking these expensive cameras into the hood, but because he was getting pictures for a lot of these artists, people, you know, invited, took them in, you know, like, we're good, you know what I'm saying? Because they needed those pictures. He had those resources that a lot of us, we had Kodak 110s. You couldn't get a good photo out of that. So he was doing that, and Take told him one day, he said, yo, you got to meet the rest of my guys, man. We break, you know, and so forth. And he was like, yeah. So we ended up frequenting Henry's studio, and it was around that time that, and this to my memory, because a lot of things were exploding prior to this with Basquiat, and there's a few other people that were influential at that time, but there was a very particular moment where he put together an exhibition on Worcester Street, right next to his studio, in Common Ground, I think it was, and it was, you know, it was this exhibition of graffiti art with T-Kid 170 doing the mural. Then you had Fab Five Freddy, Ramel Z, you know, these are artists, also artists doing the emceeing, DJ Ruddy T, and then they had us doing the breaking. So, you know, we put together, he was like, yeah, this was gonna happen for 2 days, it's open to the public, and the Village Voice covered it. So the Village Voice came and, you know, took those pictures, and this was one of the first times that I know of, from my experience, that you know, what will be considered the 4 elements of hip-hop culture were put together to showcase to audiences to see what was happening. And, you know, at that same time, there was a very important monumental moment with Negril. Negril was probably, this is the Mud Club, I think, one of these, because I looked over one, okay, Mud Club up in the top right corner. We started right after Negril doing DJ Bronx came down to the village, so the music and the kind of the whole culture, the writers, the community itself. Once that started happening, it was Peppermint Lounge, Mud Club, Danceteria, all these village art spots, the kitchen, so many different places where, it was this interesting culture clash with punk rock and hip-hop culture, the elements of hip-hop culture. So it was an exciting time, and we were over there flipping out on people that were, had these bugged out haircuts, orange haircuts, and safety pins in their cheeks, and spikes everywhere, and they're looking at us like these dudes are spinning on their heads with ski caps and ski suits. So they're like, we're just like digging it, and I think it was very radical from both ends, and that's why we were able to really just exist in the same space. Like seriously, like there was a lot of tension with people and radical art, but they were radical, we were radical, so it just made sense. So a lot of these moments were particular to the hip hop expanding to the East Village.
Thanks. So I've got a map here of Hubbard High School and the Southwest Youth Collaborative. Justin, I wonder if you can tell us a little bit about University of Hip Hop.
Yes. University of Hip Hop is, I would say, is one of the first kind of organizations that would do like after-school breakdance programming. And a friend of mine from high school had a big brother Raven, who's Shyrock Nation. He was just another OG who's like, he did all the elements. He was like a super b-boy, He did like braid with he was really a graffiti writer, but he was an MC, and then he could break too. But he, he was one of the people who was like who kind of embraced all the elements. 'Cause I think a lot of times like back then, still not so much today, but maybe like we did everything. Like you gotta have, like we were breakers, but you gotta have a decent tag, or had dope. Some people had a dope rhyme, or some people would like start DJing or had tables and things like that. So it was like it was important to be like kind of like respect the other elements and be like Renaissance, because it was the culture. It was like something that we were all revolved around. So, but UHH, like that's exactly what it was. It was like the university, and it wasn't super institutional, like where it was like a university, but like it was more loose, like teaching youth about it, and it was cool to have it. He like I say, he was a CPS teacher, Mr. Raven. We'll see a picture of him later, and he would do practices in his yeah, that's Raven right there. He would do practices in his classroom after school, and that started at Hubbard. So even me, I would go, in high school, I would go over there just to catch session, like a few times, like at the school with kids starting to learn how to break and do a little exchanges and things. But Raven, he would bring community together, and we do circles and knowledge sessions and things like that. So it was like bigger, like the bigger picture of it, like how it connected to just hip hop in general. But it was that organization is very. This is a collabo between our program, our program, which we'll talk about later, that was at Alternatives, and the Southwest Youth Collaborative. So it was like South Side, North Side collabo at University of Hip Hop, which was really cool. So it's like a unity thing. Again, like it was bringing a lot of people together, and it was cool. We would just have meetings and exchanges and potlucks, and it was kind of like making it like a family thing or a community thing, and which was really important, like to bring people together. All city too, like it was a Southside thing, but yeah, Mr. Raven, he would give people jobs, and I met youth like that. I'm still in contact today just through working with them. Like they were getting paid, and I was getting paid. I was a young adult, and just to teach or like do media or like, it was cool. They embraced the culture, and they gave kids a free space for after school programs and stuff like that. So that was kind of like, I feel, one of the inspirations for like, whoa, this is cool. There's a space. There's like, you could practice. It's free. I mean, rather than like, we had park districts and other little practices, but it was cool to see all the heads there too. People would show up, and it was like really like vibes, like as far as like you show up in a space and you just see amazing people throwing moves. I mean, that place, like, you know, Shorty Brick and Evil and all these guys came out of there and more. And there was just an amazing time. But yeah.
CJ, did you want to add anything to that before we talk about alternatives?
Yeah, just like Justin said, just there's so many people that came out of that space that developed and really kind of honed their skills within that that building. And it was a very important space for us to come together. They had a lot of events and things like that. Some of the earlier breaking events that I went to were at the University of Hip Hop. And again, I'm from the north side, so that was all the way on the south side, which helped promote me to travel my city and get more comfortable, learning all the different areas of my city and not being afraid to venture to new areas and meet different people. So it was a really big spot for my own personal development as well.
Thank you. So my one dorky interjection is that in my prep call with CJ, he told me about this really formative space at 4730 North Sheridan Road, and I was like, I know that space, and I had to think about it and dig in a little bit. And so here's what came out of just a little bit of research. It used to be this lakeside theater, and in the early 20th century, it was also showing movies by Alfred Hitchcock and action dramas like Runaway Girls. You can also see here on the left that it appears that a Catholic parish called Lakeside was home for a period of time around 1916. It was even a dry cleaners for a bit here, as you can see on the right, which is really interesting to me.
I didn't know that.
Isn't that wild? This is what I do upstairs here at the Chicago History Museum. And then from 1972 to 2000, it was the Dance Center of Columbia College Chicago, which is so wild to think about the full circle of dance being in that space. So here are just a couple clippings from around that time. You've got, abroad shows, folks coming from New York, like B.B. Miller, Muñequitos de Matanzas from Cuba, but also local folks like Montu Dance Theater and Gus Giordano. And it's hard to imagine, but because Columbia feels like such a real estate fixture in the Loop. But in the 70s, this was the only building that Columbia College ever owned. So it's really interesting to think about the evolution with regards to space and power and real estate. And I just want to shout out Shirley Mordine, who passed away last week. Rest in peace. She was the founder of the Columbia College dance program. So just kind of a spiritual moment, I feel like, this panel. And then it became the space alternatives for a moment in time. And so, CJ, take us back to 2002 when you and Justin came together and joined forces.
Justin should really be starting this story because he kind of pulled me in to kind of start the programming that we started at Alternatives. Just so it's clear, all the hip hop that happened at Alternatives was because of our program called Connect Force that we created. A lot of people will just be like, Alternatives, which was the building, which is very important, but it was the program that we created that made all of that possible. And long story short, Justin had some friends that worked at Alternatives. Alternatives was a youth and family services agency. They actually still exist. They have a space on the south side. And I still work at this building. The nonprofit I work for is called Circus Esteem, which is circus and self-esteem combined. And I'm a program coordinator there. And they bought that building about 3 years ago and renovated it. So the building's still there, just not owned by Alternatives anymore. And in around 2002, Justin knew a couple people that worked there. And they're interested. They were in the hip hop themselves, and they were trying to figure out a way to bring that to that space. And we had actually started doing programming in Chicago public schools, kind of developing our program, teaching breaking after school at different high schools in the city. I think we started at Sen and Sullivan on the north side, and. Basically, Alternatives caught wind of what we were doing, and with the people that worked there, pulled us into their programming. So we were under the umbrella of Alternatives, many other programs that they had there, which were like restorative justice programs. They had a program for young women called Girl World. and they had also clinical services for youth and families. So we started working there as employees of Alternatives, but we had a lot of autonomy with our program, and we created Connect Force, which was an after-school hip-hop program that ran on Tuesdays and Thursdays and Saturdays for 10 years, from 2002 to 2012. And yeah, Justin really made a lot of that happen. We collectively developed the program, but I want to let you expound upon that a little bit more, if you'd like.
Yeah, look at all those beautiful children we bred. Yeah.
You might see some familiar faces here too that are grown people now.
Yeah, I think like 2000, I was fresh out of high school, and I got a job doing city year. So that was like my, which was AmeriCorps, if y'all are familiar with that. And that was like my introduction into like youth work. But I did that for a couple years. I was a public ally as well. And I kind of stumbled upon this space. It was like kind of underutilized and a little dusty, and I just seen it was just that it was gonna, the floors was perfect, and it was just a lot of potential, and I just jumped on it, like volunteering, you know, as like a 19-year-old. I was going to school, and I was in school full time, working full time, and I was like, yo, this is dope. And at the time, CJ was coming up in the scene. And I had seen him actually in events around. We used to, after, was also parties, because it was breaking parties, but like 2000s, like we would be breaking at, we was like keg parties, like college type parties, and we were in that age bracket, and we would just be breaking in the living room of a keg party. That's where I seen these guys. Like, and I was just them too, and I was like, damn, these dudes are cool. I didn't know them, and there was the North Side. CJ was doing hand hops. I never seen hand hops before. I mean, it's been around, of course, but I was like, damn, what is that, you know? And then I actually ended up we were in the same crew, and we ain't never met, a graffiti crew. So I kind of like started meeting with this guy, but I kind of gravitated towards having him help me over there, like somehow, because this was that dude, and he was down. And, you know, Brickheads, families, the people show up to practice. And it just started from practice, just having one day a week and practicing. And from there on, like youth, just really just telling kids, we see kids on the, because, you know, there's big old buildings around. And we would just see kids on the street and be like, yo, you want to see some breaking? Come inside. Like, and that worked. And some of these kids got real good, and it was a resource like right across the street from the crib. So, and we had like people got inspired, and we built. It was like some good times. Like I feel like during that time we were hosting some of like some big battles in Chicago, and it was still underground. And then other people would rent the space and collabs with us too, and put some money towards prize money and get some good judges. So it was like. It was definitely cool and grassroots, and of course we were doing more than breaking. We're doing like all the elements, and we would teach the kids about that.
Just to jump in, what we were trying to do is basically have a North Side version of the University of Hip Hop. So we really took a lot of what Raven did and what was happening at the collaborative, Southwest Youth Collaborative, and we brought it to Alternatives to have another space and hub in our city.
All right. I love these pictures. This is just a picture of the legislation that was passed that canceled the funding for programming at Alternatives and University of Hip Hop. And I just think it's important to show that government has an explicit hand in supporting our community practices. So I just wanted to surface that. Do you guys want to say anything about that?
Just that we did a lot of grassroots funding ourselves too, and we would do all kinds of events and community work and murals, and we would pay our youth. You know, we'd have little 8-year-olds and 9-year-olds like, "Where's my check?" And like, you know, stuff like that. Like, and we'd be like, "Dude, we're gonna get you your check, bro. You gotta wait 2 weeks like everybody else," you know. And it was really cool to help the youth that we were working with. see what we were doing on more of a professional level. It's one thing is to do it and have fun, but it's also another thing to really cultivate and start to really break down what you're doing, how you're doing it, how you're presenting yourself, how you're presenting yourself when you're talking to people about what you do and all of these things. And part of our programming, we would have life skills every week, and we would have discussions about our lives and like what's going on in our lives, current events, but also our comportment, how we are with people, what I just said, and just trying to help develop our youth in a way that is not just about showing off your skills, but also the knowledge behind it and how you're applying yourself with it.
And then can you guys talk about the connection to Kuumba Links and their space?
Yeah, so again, along with University of Hip Hop, Kuumba Links was very instrumental in just supporting our movement with like open spaces and break-in. There was like a few times that the building that Alternatives was under construction, and Kuumba was there from the beginning, just in the neighborhood, but they were always our big sisters. So like when we didn't have a space, they would house us, and we could move practice over there at the Park District, and it was a cool space. They had like a boxing ring in there, but
This is at Clarendon Park, by the way.
yeah, this is at Clarendon, and we had big knowledge sessions and big circles, and it brought everybody together, and they focused on more on theater performance and poetry and spoken word and things, but and this is a picture of a footwork. We actually, early on, we were doing footwork and breakdancing battles, which is really key, because footwork, this kind of footwork, Chicago footwork, is a big deal to Chicago. But Kuumba Links were there was no separation in hip hop. People would have say, oh, that's not hip hop, or it's not down with the elements, but everything was hip hop over there. Look, there goes Flo Wolf right there as a youngin. But this space, Kuumba Links was once we got kicked out of Alternatives, which we didn't mention, she showed us that paperwork, which we were funded by the state. So around that same time, it was 2012, they cut the funds. We had it was 50 G's, which isn't much, but it paid me and CJ's little salary plus whatever change we made or whatever. But they didn't even try to tell us yo, you got to fundraise, and then they just was bam, they just started cutting. 2
weeks we had to be out of there, and we had just thrown our funny story. I want to mention this because probably maybe one of the last times Ken Swift has been to Chicago. I don't know how in recent years, how many times you've been here, but he was definitely here in 2012 because Justin and I and our program flew him out here to judge the last event that we had at Alternatives, which was called Power in Numbers. And 2 weeks after that, they were like, y'all got to go. So, yeah.
But that same time that with the fund cut, it just magically they cut both the south side and the north side, and the programs just kind of fell off. But yeah, Kuumba kind of sustained us. We were sustained over there.
Yeah, we got to make sure to shout out Kuumba.
Yeah, Kuumba Links.
Can you just briefly talk about these other spaces that y'all mentioned?
Yeah, so I felt it important to mention all of these community spaces, some which are still active and others aren't. I'll start over here at the Point. I know many people remember the Point. We used to be up there breaking. That floor was super hard, so you know what I'm saying. It helped you really learn how to do your moves properly. But it was real smooth and slick, so it was a really dope spot. And a lot of great lighting, so there's always a good vibe in there. Firehouse Community Art Center, which is still active right now. I just saw Manigat somewhere. Manigat in the back, shout out. Hi, Reese. So this is a really another dope space that really promotes, obviously the community, but hip hop, and there's weekly practices that happen there Mondays and Wednesdays still. Taking it back to Oakton Community, for those of you that remember the Break Open, that was the first not first, but one of the early community practices where all crews that break would go there to practice, even motion disorder, people from Milwaukee and stuff would go there. That was a really dope spot that lasted for a couple years, weekly practices. Let's see. Chase Park, we're there right now practicing on Mondays and Thursdays on the north side. So thank you, Chicago Park District. Also, Clarendon Park, what we just mentioned, where Kuma Links was having their programming, we were practicing there for many years. And Willie B. White Community Center was another spot that we were practicing at in Rogers Park for maybe like 4 or 5 years. So just shout out Park District for letting us practice for free and just kind of supporting breaking in Chicago.
Public infrastructure, public good. It's important that we take care of it and pay for it. I want to shift to New York. So Ken, this article came out, ooh, hold on. This came out, my little video. Oh. Anyways, this article came out a couple weeks ago and it caused a stir online. Everybody was like going insane in my little internet circles, like sort of weighing the pros and cons of, you know, this article being controversial or not. And when we were speaking on the phone, you were saying, we used to break at Penn Station a long time ago. This is not news. And I just am wondering if you could tell us a little bit about that moment in time.
Yeah, once again, it boils down to at 34th Street, Manhattan, you know, there were clubs in that neighborhood. So it was, and you know, Jersey's right across from Penn Station. You know, a lot of people from Jersey were coming into the city to go to a lot of these clubs. And, you know, we're talking about people just to party and stuff, but breakers, you know, B-boys and B-girls were coming in. And so, you know, you get to that point to go to your train. And the thing about Penn Station was the medium, the floor, it was marble. So once again, the whole idea of having a space that you could spin on, because spins were so popular at the time, of course we're gonna, you know, in our, like, you know, we wouldn't even say, let's go to Penn Station to break. It would be like, oh, we're in Penn Station, hold on a second. And someone will do something and someone else would start doing it and they're like, and then you'll see a little battle pop off. And, you know, it was just, you know, the medium itself and you know, Penn Station, you know, so it wasn't a practice spot, but it was a point to get from one point to the next. I had a floor that we were able to get a few moments in and bug out with.
And now you're in LA, and I'm just wondering if you could tell us a little bit about everything that you're doing over there, including your studio.
Well, I mean, it's a little bit more personal, you know. My studio space is an art space for kind of like that I've always wanted to do art, you know, like I always struggled to find space and had to pay for space, and I saved my money and, you know, came up. So I have, it's behind my house, so it's not like I can let the world into my home. But my friends know who they are, and they, you know, it's always, my doors are always open. Zulu Gremlin lives right next to me, and I'm like, Grem, here's the keys if you need it, come through, don't worry about anything. But once again, I'm not from LA, I'm from New York, and I could sometimes feel the energy, and people could tell I'm not from LA, obviously, but I'm particular about that, you know, just in that sense. But, you know, being in LA, you know, there's a lot of people out there that have been active in the community for many years, and they have their spaces. The whole thing about being in LA, I was never really there. Even, I've been there over 10 years, but I was always traveling, still always traveling. So it's like, I'd miss most of the events that would go down in there. And then you had people doing practices in Long Beach and certain areas in Bremen, Asia 1 doing her noisy props thing. So there's people out and about, but and it's funny because I know so many people in LA from all the summits and all the freestyle sessions, but I never see anybody. It's like I never see anybody. I'm like, I felt like I would see everybody. But that's that New York mentality, because we get on subway trains and, you know you're going to run into someone on the subway. People from all countries, they're like, Kenny! I'm like, oh, snap. They're not even from here, and they're on the subway, so it's like not hard to see someone you know on the subway. So I'm over there in LA and it's car culture, and I'm like, where's everybody at, man? I'm in a mall, I'm like, where do people go, you know? But it's LA is a whole different place, and the studio's a cool little spot to just, you know, in these later years, I'm not practicing breaking every day. You know, I'm kind of utilizing it to look at the archive and do a lot of the work that I haven't had the time to do, with a lot of research and development on behalf of the history of the experience, my experience, and the breaking experience.
Right on. Coming back here to Chicago. So 1860 South Blue Island, I found this obituary from a long time ago, and it said in 1918 that this person who passed away had a sausage making firm in this space, which I think is wild. I don't know if that feels reminiscent and all at all in your experience in the space?
Not at all.
Not at all.
I
was
had
hoping
no
not.
idea.
But I'm wondering if you could tell us about your studio and your building.
Yeah, so I'm a recent new business owner of Steadfast Dance Center, which is on 1860 South Blue Island in the Pilsen community. And it's a cool spot. You know, there's a lot of other, it's a commercial building, so there's other businesses within that building. But we actually bought this business from the former owner just to really, one, for my personal being, to do something new in my life, but also two, to keep the space open. There was a lot of people in that community that don't break, that have nothing to do with hip hop, that went to that dance school. And once we took over, Beast Boy, my business partner, Sergio, we really wanted to keep the heart of what that dance center was about, which was community. So we made sure we kept all the classes like ballet and tap and jazz and all these other dance forms, but also introduced our dance form, which is breaking, and bringing that and the other elements like house and swing and all these other things to the space as well, just to really expand. And it's been going really great. I just want to thank my community because initially we did some crowdfunding to raise money for, to help with some of our funds and whatnot. So I just want to thank all of you just for supporting us, supporting the space. And, we have weekly practices on Wednesdays from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. If you all are ever around the way and want to stop by.
What's the website and/or social media?
Yes, website steadfastdance.com, and best place to find us is on Instagram, Steadfast Dance Center.
Amazing. All right, I'm going to speed through this. Yeah, shout out. So, Justin's building, I found out, used to be a dealer for like some shingle, floor tile, siding, and it had lots of other lives, didn't it? In addition to the Berry Brothers.
Strip club. You see the stage? Yeah, so I got this property in, we call it 1213. Back in the days, they used to call the jams, the breaking jams or the hip hop jams, just the address, like 811 or whatever. So like I kind of was like, named it the address. And this is like kind of the space transforming. We did DIY, we did ourselves, like knock down walls, demo. Buy a house if you want to learn something, you can learn plumbing and electrical and drywall and roofing, and you can, don't go to school, buy your kid a house and make them fix it so yeah, this is like, again, the space kind of transforming. Had a few versions of it. There's like slat floors. This is early on, like just wood and linoleum, and people came through. It was cool. Community comes through when there's jams. This was actually right after COVID, I think, or maybe pre. But like, it's amazing to see that, again, the space changed. It did the floors again. I don't know where this money came from, but I did it. We put a ceiling in that piece. That was hard, but yeah, this is just the jams. And it's not like the biggest space, again. It's more like kind of like a emptied out storefront. And in Inglewood. And then how that came about was, I was like saving bread for a long time for a space, after all the trials and tribulations of working with nonprofits and other institutions. And I was like sick. I was like, especially with gentrification and the price for like, if you want to rent a storefront on North Side or something, like, it was just crazy. And then, when you go to like, nothing wrong, again, props to the institutions or park districts or things like, or like nonprofits, but there's a lot of stipulations and rules around working with people and bureaucracy and, all that fun and stuff. So just like on some grassroots stuff, got presented this opportunity to get this spot, and I had the bread, and it was in Inglewood, and I was like, it was like better to be there than anywhere else, like where it could be a good resource for when in a place where there's not a lot, or what they say is not a lot, but as far as like the culture of breaking. And so yeah, I got presented this opportunity to be there, and I dumped some bread into it, and people supported, and it's been amazing to do it. I mean, I still haven't got like I've applied for grants and did that, and of course, but it's been a lot of just coming out of pocket or community community funding and support. So big up Chicago for showing up, coming out to all the jams.
That's right. We are unfortunately coming up on time, so I want to end with just like a big catch-all question, and would love for y'all to answer it however you like. So as we reflect on your histories, your spaces, your places over time, what are your hopes for breaking in the future? And what advice would you give the younger generations about places and spaces in Chicago or other places? And whoever can go first.
Yo. So I feel like breaking is it's just an important part of history in general. It's just, of course, hip hop and arts. So I would like to see. It's great it's in the Olympics and there's more light shine on it across the world. I feel like it's bigger in other places than America almost, and I would love to see, of course, more kids doing it, and and they are, and it's thanks to the hard work of people doing the schools and having their programs. But I think, like education-wise, I think if we can educate the youth on it more, even textbook style and CPS or making it like as a staple, which it is, like, I don't know. I don't know how that's gonna. Would it help more kids break or not? That's a good question. But my hope is, or my aspiration is, to see the preservation of it. To see, because there's a lot of veterans and OGs that are still doing it in our city here. Big ups. Still winning battles. 40-something years old, and then there's the new kids too, who good parenting is gonna help. So if you're a parent, you better school your kids on this hip hop culture, okay? But it's important. I think parents, we gotta shine more light on it and how it's important. Especially if you're a lover of it and you're a supporter of something cool. So yeah, that's kind of like my vision to see it through and to continue and not to be scared to get in that circle, young or old, share in the circle and build. That's what life is about, these circles. So let's build our circles.
I want to jump in real quick. So yeah, I mean, it's a lot with this to squeeze in. I really hope that this is all about community. It always has been, and it's all about a person's choice and decision making and trusting your heart with art. And we can do that. I mean, it's just interesting to watch 5 decades go by, this roller coaster of seeing it flourish and seeing it get dropped to the ground. I was part of the generation where it was ridiculed and said it would never last, by the way, 52 years later. Where they made television programs that ridiculed breaking and talked about the breakdance hospitals, and it was a joke. And we were all so much in love with this art. I took it very personal. I was mad. So, but one thing, the message is right now is it's all about community, and this is everything. We can't expect anything to happen for us and things to just wait for something to happen and be saved, right? For example, I spoke on this recently the last few years, and I got a lot of backlash. I just want the breaking community and the hip hop community to remember that hip hop is alive because we sustained it up until this point. People said, oh, the Olympics, now we're finally gonna make it. And I'm like, chill, hold on a second. We made it to where the Olympics wants us. Everybody's looking at it from this other perspective, and that's great. But don't forget, let's pat ourselves on the back because we sustained it to be what it is today and got it to this point. If we would have gave up and we would have stopped asking our cousins to lend us his speakers and our moms to make sandwiches we sustained this from the beginning, all this time, worldwide. We did this. So I just hope that in the journey, because it doesn't look that great. So in the States here, man, I'm seeing it unfold, and I'm kind of depressed and upset about a lot of things, because I travel and I see the support and the money that's put behind this art and the art of hip hop culture. And I'm scratching my head on a daily basis saying, what can be done? And this is why the art is so important individually and personally, because there's only so much power that we have over these things, but we do have power of our control of our journey of art in our heart and in our life. Nothing's gonna stop me from doing this art. Money, space, it's gonna get done. When I wanna dance, I'm gonna dance. So young people that are getting into this, understand this is an art that is important for you in life. Forget about business and money and all that stuff. Art, the only reason I do this now is because I love this. I love breaking. I can't do it like I used to, but I stuck with it, and there's a reason why. You know, there were times that it was good and times that it was bad, but I always knew it's a place where I can go. You know, everybody expects to get rich off of things, and, you know, is that what you really want? So just the community, please, you know, always remember, man, it was us. We did this. We made people interested. The art and our passion and community and connecting the world together with hip-hop culture it was because of us. So I just hope that people can see that. And all the rich people that get rich off of hip-hop culture, stop playing games and put some money in the pot. You know, the rappers and stuff like that. It don't take much, but, you know, I'm sure some people help, but I wish there was more of it because the states are struggling right now.
Yeah, very quickly, I had a conversation with Jenna prior to us being here today, and I was telling her that I just want to see it like how karate schools are everywhere, right? So like having breaking schools more prominent around our city or everywhere would be great. And not just to have them to learn breaking, but just all the positive aspects that come from breaking, and that personally helped me develop as an adult in my life. Just all the attributes that I was able to take, the discipline, training, holding myself to my schedule, you know, not eating too much and worrying about my health and all these different things so that I could be better at breaking. And it doesn't mean that you have to become the best breaker in the world, but these are things that you can carry with you throughout your life and help you in other areas of your life to help you grow and just be a great person in the world. So that's what I want to see. I want to see more breaking schools and more, you know, integrated in Chicago Park districts and things like that. But also to help have another avenue for young people to help discover themselves and build positive aspects that they can carry throughout their lives.
We could go on. There is so much more to talk about. But we are going to shift to the workshop portion of the evening. So please give it up for these three incredible artists, humans, breakers.
If I could, real quick, I just want to shout out my crew. I'm from the Brickheads crew, and some of my mentors are here. Saul Spin Master, where are you? He's in the back. He taught me how to break. Angel Brick right here. I used to be in his crib breaking. Like these dudes really helped bring me into the scene and made me who I am. And I owe you guys a lot. I owe the scene a lot. And I just thank you all for always supporting me. And you know, let's just keep it going. Thank you guys.